Hello everyone, this is Amit Verma. Welcome back to Boomi Techie. So in this video, we will cover these points. So first point is a deployment workflow. Second point, why deploy the process. Third point, defining packaged component, like what are packaged component. And fourth point, why create packaged component. Fifth point, what is versioning. And sixth point, how to create a packaged component, like we will see activity, packaged process. And seventh point, defining deployment, like deployment functionality. And eighth point, deployable components. We will see about deployable components. And ninth point, how deploy the process. We will create an activity, deploy a process. So let's see one by one. So first point, the deployment workflow. Deployment is how you prepare your processes and deployable components to run and operate in test and production environment. So before the deployment, your activity, like your processes, you have to cover these points, like build and create a packaged component and deploy the process. So let's see the build option. So a developer build a process or deployable components on the process canvas. So you have to choose first to create a activity or process, and the second point is create a packaged component. A developer or administrator creates a packaged component, like a component version, by creating a packaged component from build or packaged component page. We will see. And third point, deploy the package. So an administrator deploys the packaged component in one or more environment from packaged component or deploy page or deployment page. So we can deploy. So we can deploy your process one or more environment. We will see in upcoming video. And the second point, why deploy a process. So control specific versions. So let's see. Deployment controls specific version in different runtime environments as a part of development lifecycle, like example test and production. So through next point, manage versioning. So through manage versioning features, like if we create a packaged component for a process, so we can control the versions of the process, like if we choose 0.1 and 0.2. So these are two types of version of the process. So we can use a previous version of the process in a future. That's why there is a need for manage versioning. Next point, isolate the process version. Deployment isolates the version of the process running in runtime environment from ongoing changes made in process canvas. And next, for complete audit history. So through deployment, we can provide a complete audit history for version. Third point, defining packaged component. What are packaged component? So when you create a packaged component or process, you take snapshot of each deployment on a build page. You typically do this when you are finished building and ready to deploy to your environment. So let's see. Next point, why create a packaged component. So ability to assign a single version of number, like packaged component lets user assign a single version number to be tracked and referenced throughout the version deployment. And the next point is a greater control. So packaged component provide greater control over the life cycle and distribution of your process and components. Creating a packaged component with unique version allow you to track where you use each version. So we can check our components where has used these component, and we can control the version, like within that component we can use a previous version also. Next point, what are versioning. So let's see. Create a new version. Create a new version for each component, that is a versioning. Like you can specify the version number if you want to, or you can let the Boomi platform generate it for you. So we can define a version also, and otherwise Boomi generate a default version number, and the version number stay with the packaged component no matter what. Version naming. So what sort of version naming? So you can use any alphanumeric number. For example, you can name it version 1.0 and alpha release also. So let's see activity. Activity is package a process. So for package a process, let's see into integration mode, and we will see our previous process, and we have to create a package for previous process. So let's see, this is a process. This is our process converting account information to Excel, and now we need to create package. So see, this is a process, and here is an option to create a packaged component. So let's choose this box, create a packaged component, and then you can see all selected, process selected, right? And then add detail. In the add detail, you have to put version name, right? So let's see the version name. So version name is IE, month, year and date. So let's create. So IE integration essential, month. Here you can write notes for packaged component, and then create a packaged component. So here you can see the pop-up packaged component successfully created. Your packaged component were successfully created. To deploy your packaged component, click on deploy button below. So for now, let's close it. So here we can see deploy packaged component. So I'm clicking on packaged component menu, and you can see your process is packaged, right? Now the next point, 7, defining deployment. So deployment functionality. So deployment is how you prepare your processes and component to run and operate in test and production mode, right? So that is a deployment, how you can prepare your process for test environment and production environment. So that is called deployment. So let's see. Deployments include the following components and functions. Manage versions. First option, manage version. The crucial function of the deployment is managing the rollout of the specific version across different runtime environments. For example, you may deploy version 1.0, right, and test environment, and the version 2.0 to production environment. So there is a 2 version of the process, like 1.0 for test and 2.0 for production, right? Next point, manage a process and deployable version component. Another function is managing process and deployable version component, such as API proxy, API service, processing group, process route, flow service, and certificates. These are deployable. These components we can deploy individually, right? We will see in upcoming video. And next one, you can't deploy connector, map, trading partner, and flow proxy. This is also component like maps, connectors. We can use many times in the process. That is a component. So this is also component, but we can't deploy individually, right? Next topic, separates. So deployment separates the different version of the process running in the runtime environment from ongoing changes in the build page. Once we deploy a process, it stays the same even if we change the process on build page. Audit history. So another point, audit history. We can for deploy the process, we can control the audit. We can check the audit history also. So deployment provide the complete audit history for versioning and deployment. It includes the package, version, environment, deployment data, and deployment data deployed by any deployment nodes, right? So next point, deployable components. We already know about which component we can deploy and which component we can't deploy. So we can see here deployable component: process, API proxy, API services, and certificates, public X.509, flow service, process route, processing group. And we can't deploy like connector, map, trading partner, and flow proxy. Let's check the 9th point about activity, how deploy the process. So we create a package of the process. Now the next point is deploy the process. So let's see the activity, deploy the process. When deploying, the Boomi checks your account to make sure you have enough connection license to deploy the process, right? So first of all, you have to check your license, like how many processes you can deploy. This is not applicable for test mode. This is only for production mode. So next, let's see this activity. Focus on the task involved in deploying the process. Let's see deploy your process. In packaged components, select action menu and for your process and deploy. So in packaged components, this is a deploy option and this is a packaged component. You can see here action and the option of deploy. So let's select the deploy. Now I have to choose the environment. So let's select the production environment. We already created in a previous video, and the deployment nodes is initial deployments. Let's select next, select the version and review, and then deploy. Now you can see the pop-up, deployment successfully. Your packaged component were successfully deployed. Click on view deployments button and see all deployments for this account. So let's see, view the deployments. So here we can see only one deployment has deployed just now. So that's all for today's video. Thank you.